Our Constitution guarantees equal rights to all its citizens, but in reality, there are people whose rights are not realized on a daily basis. Sri Lanka's disabled community adds up to the millions, and the numbers are expanding, with a large percentage being members of the armed forces. However, there are few mechanisms in place to ensure that they too enjoy equal rights. In our next report, we take a look at how the disabled community in the country is working towards changing this situation.
Whether it's a bank or a government office, or even temples, churches and cinema halls, Sri Lanka's disabled community are denied access. So Dr. Ajit C.S. Pereira decided to take legal action. In a petition to the Supreme Court, he called for the implementation of the Accessibility Regulation under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 1996. According to Dr. Pereira, this act has not been implemented due to the lack of mechanisms for providing access to disabled persons in various ministries, government departments, state banks and provincial and local council buildings. Dr. Pereira says there are little signs of the government taking action to introduce accessibility measures in public buildings, and that there is a failure to implement these laws even in the case of new constructions.
In any collection of human beings, diversity in ability, diversity in mobility in particular is inevitable, and this is normal. But when people have to attend to normal day-to-day life, the way that we construct and design public buildings and public places, large number, daily increasing, are disadvantaged or even marginalized in attending to normal work. We have gone to the courts to get the maximum benefit for the large number of people. Even to support Mahinda Chintana, this is very, very important. Mahinda Chintana specifically states all public buildings on page 19 has to be made accessible. But so far, no one, although it has been there. So this case and our endeavors will support Mahinda Chintana in making public buildings accessible, making it a reality, meaningful reality. So that's the major thing that we are concerned about.
While accessibility of public buildings and spaces primarily affects people who do not have the use of their limbs, there are others who are impacted by it in different ways.
If you ask me what is accessibility, if a person can go to a certain place independently, safely and with a minimum period of time, if you can create the path for a person to go to that place, I think that is called accessibility. Accessibility is not only for people who are using wheelchairs, it's for visually impaired people, hearing impaired people. We all need accessibility.
Sri Lanka's disabled community could account for as much as 16% of the population. This includes those affected by short-term disability caused by illness, elderly people afflicted by debilitating medical conditions, members of the armed forces who have been disabled due to war, and people of the north and east where ongoing conflict and the presence of landmines has taken its toll. The Protection of the Rights of Disabilities Act was passed in 1996. Sri Lanka also signed the UN Convention on the Rights of Disabilities in 2006. But when it comes to the implementation of these laws and conventions, progress has been minimal.
We had an act in 1996, but that act hardly contained any real rights for people with disabilities, except for one little paragraph about physical accessibility, still, which was not written in a way that could be implemented. So, to make it possible to implement that chapter about physical accessibility regulations were done. Actually, those regulations had been drafted around 2003, but they were put to Parliament and passed only in 2007 as legalized in 2007. But even though they were legalized in 2007, now there should, if this physical accessibility law has to be implemented, there should be a monitoring mechanism. For example, it should be integrated into the UDA Act. It should be integrated into the Pradeshya Sabha Acts. where the plans for public buildings will be passed. So that has not taken place. So because of that, the implementation process is not happening.
There are some positive examples of buildings and public spaces where disabled-friendly features have been introduced into the built architecture. The post offices in Dehiwala and Mount Lavinia are such attempts.
If the disabled people come here, we are giving a very special treatment for them, and we get them inside and we personally attend to them what they need. Immediately we attend to them and they are happily going.
The first ever post office in Sri Lanka, the Mount Lavinia post office, the first ever municipal council, Dehiwala municipal council, the first ever public library, Dehiwala public library, and even the UDA, the new building, I was able to help them to design a new entrance, and even the parliament I went and I was able to convince them. But that is remedial action. All what we need is preventive action. As far as preventive action is concerned, hardly any building that is coming up, even in the western province or the southern province, where the residential population is the highest value, I am not at all happy.
Ajit and other disabled rights activists insist that new constructions at least include features that will make buildings and public spaces accessible for everyone.
When you say that UDA is undertaking, UDA is also doing public buildings, and also there are different institutions where they also undertake. There are state institutions which most of the public buildings are done by them, and when we approve plans under our powers, the developer or the consultants should accommodate those requirements. So at the moment, most of the state institutions like the Central Engineering Consultancy Bureau, the State Engineering Corporation, Urban Development Authority, they are accommodating, and even private sector architects know that requirement, so they are accommodating the requirement. So it has not gone for 100%, but most of the public buildings now have access to for anybody kind of. Even this building is accessible.
Dr. Ajit Pereira's case is now in the Supreme Court. The court has directed that further information be provided about measures that have been taken so far before it makes a decision.
Through the court case, we hope the Supreme Court bench will see the realities and support this one as a win-win thing. We are not complaining of anyone. So it is to get the participatory support of everyone. In the large interest of the society only, I have sacrificed time, money, effort and so much thing for the betterment of the society.
Hopefully, the court will make a positive intervention to ensure that Sri Lanka's disabled community gets justice and equal protection under the law as enshrined in the Constitution.
We have already seen, rather we have 30 years of experience, of just how damaging it can be to overlook a minority community. Understanding, tolerance and inclusion is the only way that we can prevent history from repeating itself. That's all for today. If you have any comments or suggestions, please email us at srilankatoday@yatv.net. Thanks for watching.